TikTok, it's time to rock. It's the Sunday show. We're getting ready. We're getting ready for what's going to be an awesome show. I know that Brad's going like this. Brad's rubbing his hands together. We've got some pics to show. Simon's got records to hold up and sniff for us so that we can smell the vinyl. He's dusted all the cobwebs off them. Oh my gosh. Oh, look at that. We'll present you soon.
Cork sniff aside.
We're vinyl sniffers here, ladies and gentlemen. That's about it. My name is Andrew, guys.
We've rented a church hall to talk you down.
I'm pleased to be here with the Sunday team, the Sunday Rap Bags. On the top rung this time, we have all the way from the UK, the person that gives this show its authenticity, the Englishman.
Pound for pound, sound for sound. There ain't no finer prof around.
And as usual, propping up the Rat Bags all the way from Melbourne.
Down under.
Us up. Yeah, propping us up. Brad.
Are you guys good?
Oh, dear. Yeah. Good weeks. We've had good weeks, guys.
Good week. Lots of studying this week, lots of work. Landry's had us under the pressure, under the steam cooker this week, I can tell you.
Oh, I'm just reading some of the comments. You look.
Hashtag vinyl slippers. Yes, Johnny, you're right. Look, Warren's in the chat. Warren, you're back. Tremendous. Hope you're good, man. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, Warren.
I did drop in yesterday, so I did see that Warren, you were in yesterday, but not to comment. I was too busy doing other stuff. No fingers to type.
You were just waking up anyway, Simon, weren't you?
Yeah.
Well,
you got it, bro. No, it was a good show. We had a good show. Good to see Warren. Good to see that he was back. And as Brad said, this side of the hospital, which is always good. So, no, appreciate it. Let us know what you guys think of this clown over here. And not the clown next to me, the clown next to Simon. That other clown.
Where's it there? That one there.
Yeah. That flicking thing. Let us know what you think of that flicking clown.
Yeah.
Hey, that flicking clown. See, we don't swear here on this show.
Yeah.
He doesn't have enough Coke Zero yet.
No. Enough bootros.
Oh my gosh, you guys are awesome. I enjoy hanging out with you
Terrible.
two. You know, because I always have such a good day. And as soon as I jump on here on the Sunday show, oh my God, I just sink.
You think, oh my God, yes.
Oh my gosh.
Car crash.
I think the same too. I think, oh goodness, here we go. I'm in the magical ritual bus.
I'm just thinking, oh goodness, I'm awake.
Yeah.
Well, look, we may as well let people know what's going on. So my clocks have gone forward, guys. So I'm streaming the show 7:30ish here, which is an hour forward than what I would normally stream. to accommodate my other co-hosts. So so if they tell you I don't do anything for them, I'm telling you that I'm going later for them.
Well, majority rules, Andrew. You've said that. Majority rules. So,
This ain't a democracy.
We are forever in your debt. Yeah, the boss says this is how it's going to be. Director, producer.
It's always a bit of fun with you guys. Thank you for participating. And I'm trying not to swear in the steering.
He's like Rupert Murdoch, isn't he? and if that's not an insult, I don't know what is.
Simon, who's in the chat? Try. Let's get back on board.
Let's get back on. Let's get back on it. Yes, stop messing about. Yeah, so we just say good morning, John. ZD351, cleaning out his mum's place. I hope we're keeping you company, John. And Sonia, of course. Good morning, Sonia. That's good. Robot Master Switch. Good morning, robot. Can't quite get used to that. But Ellen, of course. Ellen, good morning, Ellen. Hope you're good. And Johnny Heartbreaker. Morning, John. And Teresa. Morning, Teresa. Hope we're all good in sunny Brazil. Hugh Caldwell, morning Hugh, and Deja Voodoo, morning, and Arvin as well, morning Arvin, and of course the mighty Warren, welcome back. It's good to see you, and we've missed the humour. We've been keeping the flame going by teasing Brad about his beer dispensers, which apparently can cause earthquakes. Who'd have known?
Yes.
That was
turn
good.
them up to 10.
Tremendous. That was tremendous.
That was funny.
Dead serious.
I was rolling around. I was in fits of laughter, bro. I should have recorded myself and sent it to you.
That would have been
great.
funny.
It was really funny. Yeah. Dead fan. Excellent. If you've not seen that, you need to check out Brad's announcement on Instagram that he did the other day. Oh dear. So we've got Adam Crofts. Good morning, Adam. Thanks for joining. So I think hopefully I've got everybody. Didn't miss anybody out. So morning all. Hope we're all good. And
Yeah. Yes.
yes.
I reckon that little post I did has actually had over 4,000 views.
Come on.
It's unbelievable. Anyway,
On the one hand, funny. On the other hand, slightly disappointing. Yes, if only everything else can get 4,000 views as well.
I can post a clip of myself doing my best, guitar lick I've ever played. I'm struggling to get through it, and I'm putting so much effort into it, and I get 100 views, and I put up a stupid little post like that, and I get 4,000.
With what's going on in the world today, don't be surprised, ladies and gentlemen, if the Victorian government come and grab Brad, and take him away and say, you got to pay for this, bro.
Oh, man.
You're paying for this earthquake that you've caused.
Oh, mate. Oh, well, mate, I think, without getting too political, I think we've all paid enough by now. I can guarantee that.
Well, yeah. Brad, you'll be taken away by men in black suits in shades in a black, unmarked van.
Mate, don't laugh about it. It could happen. We'll leave it there.
Awesome. We were laughing about that on one of my work calls this week. One of my colleagues was there was lots of crashing and kind of went on, and we're like, Alistair's been kidnapped by the men from the government.
Yeah. So it's good to see you, gents. Good to see you, gents. It's Sunday here. It's 4:45 here, and my lord, I think I've immersed myself into my books, my notes, my recording. I've listened to it a million times now over the last week. I have to say, I think I am just the biggest Zepp head that's ever walked the face of the earth now because of this. It's just like I know I've got documentation. I don't even know where to look with my presentation here today. I've got that much going on. I've spent my all day outside in the sun on the back veranda, the back little area I've got going over and culling bookloads of information to make it worthwhile.
Culling.
So, yeah.
Well, bro, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because what we'll do is, you know, we've got this show scheduled, ladies and gentlemen watching in the chat, for, you know, one show, but we'll see how we go, because, you know, if we need to come back and do part 2 of this album, especially because of the fact that, you know, Brad and Simon's done a lot of research on it, it's important for us, you know, to make sure that we at least present what we think's really important, because that's what we do, that's what we like. So we'll see where we are at 2 hours, guys.
Yep.
We don't want to rush it, but it's such an important album. So I've got the easy job, because I'm just going to do a little bit of an intro, and I'm sly because I pull my other 2 co-hosts into my introductions, you see. So that's how I do it. So we always like to start off, obviously, the albums with a bit of a sentimental, personal story about the album that we're ranking, that we're discussing. So I'm going to ask Simon, because he's up on the top rung there, what he thinks about this album quickly, you know, where it's situated, how he discovered it. And then Brad will do the same thing, and then I'll get into the intro, guys. Rock Professor, take it away.
Well, I pretty much bought it when it came out. It's one of the first albums I bought. I was there. I had I can finally do. I was one of those I was there moments. That I mean, Led Zeppelin IV is the soundtrack to my youth. As it came out in 72, so you know, 72? No, November 71. So I probably bought it in 72. It had just been out for a bit, and you know, it was played all the time, everywhere you went. People had copies of Led Zeppelin IV. We used to go to Wednesday disco at a place called Tiffany's, and they had a Wednesday night rock night, and clearly that was a staple of that. Rock and roll was a staple of that, along with Communication Breakdown and things. So I've lived with this album pretty much since, you know, has been one of my favorite records ever still. You know, you can never have too much Led Zeppelin, you know, to wit, just 2 versions I got. Got 2 versions, just in case you were worried that one wasn't enough. I think I've got at least one more. I got this is the re-release one, you know, the double, where they re-released a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. Fantastic. But, yeah, so I have personal, you know, kind of, as I say, it's the soundtrack of my life. I probably listen to it as much as any other record, and it is definitely one of my absolute favourites, because it was out when I was 14, you know, and that's really important.
That's the time, Simon. 14, 15, 16. That's when you're caught hook, line, and sinker. What about you, Brad?
Well, for me, it was just one of those things of everyone knows on the channel, and people that don't know, first thing I ever saw of Led Zeppelin was Song Remains the Same, and it captivated me. You know, wanted to be as cool as Jimmy Page wearing a dragon suit, hanging a lespaul down low below my waist, and I wanted to be that dude. I thought that was just the coolest thing ever. But from there, obviously, you know, delving back into their catalog, Led Zeppelin IV was one of the very first ones I purchased. You know, buy a couple at a time on CD, and I listened to this thing over and over and over and over. And I must have listened to Led Zeppelin IV more than any other record I owned. And to a point where I couldn't even listen to it anymore because I got it just overkilled it.
Fatigue.
I think I overcooked it. You know, I maybe listened to it too much. And it used to be my favorite Zeppelin record, without a doubt. And then obviously, as you do, you go back to this one and that, and you taste change. You start to, you know, all of a sudden, Presence was my favorite album. Then Physical Graffiti, then Houses of the Holy. But the last week since we announced we're going to be doing this show, I haven't listened to this record in its entirety for a long time. And I tell you what, it's got to be my favorite Zeppelin record again now, because it's just phenomenal. It, you know, without sort of spoiling it for everyone, it really hits how important this band and this album in particular was for classic rock and rock music. Encompasses, you know, as Jimmy Page says, like Stairway to Heaven crystallizes the essence of Led Zeppelin. So you can't really go past that. That's coming from Jimmy Page. So for me, Zeppelin IV, the minute I put it on, it was one of those records that I would listen to 2, 3, 4 times a day. It was just easy for years. I'm talking years. Andrew.
Yeah, a little bit like you, bro. I think so. The song remains the same. Was my first Led Zeppelin album that I bought, and I think I bought this album around the same time that I bought Houses of the Holy, because like you guys, I remember dropping this, and I was familiar with the songs, obviously on this album that we're on. Song remains the same. But like you, I was just blown away with this album in particular. I loved this album more than I did Houses of the Holy. So I was about the same age that Simon was, around that 14, 15, 16, you know, because I hadn't heard anything like it, and it was just captivating. And I just couldn't understand why other people weren't listening to it. Now, you guys know how I mentioned to you sometimes, and I've heard albums, I couldn't understand them, like Exile on Main Street. You know, when I first heard that, I couldn't understand it. I had to wait until I was in my 20s or something like that. I got this album when I first heard it, and it was just the energy, you know, that the guitar riffing, the storytelling, Simon, which we love when an album does that. And if you can pick up on that in the first listen, it's just even better. So, look, I agree with you, Brad. I think it's a masterpiece of an album. I think in my notes somewhere, I think it's classic rock's #1 album, rock album. So, and I think it deserves that position. One of the comments in the chat, I think it's from Warren. I think it was Warren. No, John, ZD351, you know, Led Zeppelin IV, Led Zeppelin, Untitled. That, you know, that's a good question.
Also,
that's a question that fans ask. For me, it was always Led Zeppelin IV. What about you guys?
Always Led Zeppelin IV.
Yep. Always Led Zeppelin IV. Interesting, Jimmy Page, in the studio, they used to call it the Four Symbols. That's what they called it, you know. But I don't think, you know, that we could get into the, you know, the release and the cover and everything. It's you know, if you, and I've said this a lot on this show, the interesting part was, you know, that this kind of turned up, you know, it's got no name on the sleeve, nothing at all, and you know, and that epitomizes the mystery that for most groups, Led Zeppelin were very good about being mysterious. You know, they never appeared on television. None of their stuff was ever showed on television. Really, no, not at all. They never, in the UK, they never did singles, so they were never on Top of the Pops or anything like that. So they were just a band you read about in the music, you know, the music press, you know, and then they would appear with the new record, and or they were, you know, playing somewhere or something. But you know, but that's all you've got. Very little news. You know, they were very mysterious. You know, what do they look like? I've described that on here before, you know, that quite often bands you wouldn't know what they look like, you know, and so it's really, that mystery is part of the allure of it. Certainly in the early 70s, you didn't know what they were talking about. The lyrics were sometimes often quite indecipherable, especially not they don't mix them that high in the mixes and things. So there's a lot of mystery in lots of levels of it. That's fantastic. And just what to call it was clearly one of those things. It didn't have a title, and so you had to make it up. So yeah, we always used to call it as Led Zeppelin IV. But it's just because you find a a label to stick on, don't you? So people know what you're talking about, which is a common label that we all used.
Yeah, I think Deja Vu's got a good comment there, because I've mentioned this before. When we were at school, we were reading Lord of the Rings for an English in our English classes, and the references to the Lord of the Rings themes and a lot of these Led Zeppelin songs were kind of like, oh wow, this book must be pretty cool. Led Zeppelin is singing about them. And then I had a friend, Garth Blomfield, who had an older sister, and she knew a little bit, and she was telling us a few things about the runic signs and stuff like that, these magical symbols going. And it was like, oh, wow, and got to remember, Simon and Brad, around that time too, you had the right wing in America talking about devil music and putting, parental lyrics necessary, and backtracking and all that kind. I was in the middle of all that stuff. And, you're listening to that on one ear, and then you're listening to an album like this, and it's going, oh, shit, I don't care. It's great. Just listen to it. But I suppose there's a few cats in the chat too who probably remember and know exactly what I'm talking about. Brad wouldn't, because Brad's only 29, so he wouldn't know. He's got no idea what the hell we're talking about.
Oh, geez.
See, Brad, when it first came out, it was on one of these. Look, one of these, a record. It's like, oh, slowly, a record. Look, I'll just show you.
Brad's not a vinyl sniffer.
Look, that's a previous CD. That is.
Look, I have to say, I've never seen one before, Simon. Never seen an LP before.
Oh, good. You took that well, brother. You took that well. But seriously, getting back to this album, I think this album, for the little bit of research that I've done, and Simon likes to talk about it too, even though he's not metaphysical, but he likes to talk about, in rock and roll history, it's the only time that we can say it, when the lines and the stars and everything come together, and it certainly did for this album. Smart management, Peter Grant, keeping them away from the public, understood the mood, and he understood clearly what this band meant, and kept them away from this big concert, kept them away from because he knew that this album was something. You had Led Zeppelin III, which was this great album that was number one. And again, Simon and Brad, what blew me away doing research was for the album was Amit Edigan realized that this band had to get back onto track, had to get back to where Led Zeppelin 1 and Led Zeppelin 2 were. And even though, Led Zeppelin 3 was doing pretty well, but he still had this music thing going in him, didn't he? It wasn't necessarily about units for Amit. I'm going to defend him. I'm going to say, at least for this point of view, from this band's perspective, it was about getting this band doing what it had to do, which is rock music. I'm not particularly fond of Led Zeppelin 3, but this album, guys, certainly came and put Led Zeppelin firmly center stage where they deserve to be. So what do you guys think about that? Do you guys want to offer a little bit of an opinion before I just continue with my little intro? Simon?
Well, I love Led Zeppelin 3. It's one on my list to do, so it'd be quite interesting to do if it's not one of your favourites. Into that. But I think the Led Zeppelin 3 was not necessarily considered a bit of a veering off the path, having two rock albums. Really, they had lots of folk influences and things in them, but they had classic tracks, and they were kind of had a particular theme about them. But I think Led Zeppelin III, with the much more folk influences and things, was viewed as a bit of a detour, really, off the track, and wasn't very well received at the time. Lukewarm reviews from the critics and things, and I think people thought it was quite esoteric and not very focused. They went away and did their own thing, which is one of the things I liked about it. Although a lot of other bands did that as well, so it was kind of in keeping with the time. But yeah, I think everyone realized they wanted to get back on track, if you like, by producing a rock album with everything a bit more focused in the way that had been on the first two. So, and clearly they managed it whilst keeping the folk influences and things.
Well, I think it was a really tactful move on Peter Grant's part. I think from my research, they from Led Zeppelin III they had success, but it withered away very quickly, and they knew they had to do something. But instead of doing like throwing himself back out playing gigs and that, Peter Grant kept them out of the public eye for a couple of months deliberately. So he was even knocking back festivals and everything that they were getting asked to do, TV performances, because he wanted the anticipation of something new from Led Zeppelin to be bigger than probably, and it's a very smart move on his part from management. He was very big on Zeppelin, making them the brand, and giving them the power that they deserve, because they were really epic when it comes to bands. They were fairly epic. But just in this little bit of research I did, he's got here, he kept his proteges away from the television studio, concert stages for months. And the whole reason he did it was basically to build anticipation for the next record. So that in itself, to me, spells it could have gone one way or the other. But I think when the album was released, it really, and we'll get into the album and stuff as we're going along. And when it comes to the reason Jimmy Page didn't want the name, a band title on it, he didn't want anything on the album cover itself because he wanted the music to do the talking, basically.
Yeah. And also the confidence I think that he had in knowing that he was on the right track. It was a bit of a gamble, though. Bit of a gamble, Simon, don't you think? It was a risky move.
Yep. Yeah. What you mean, not putting anything on the cover and not and keeping it all the way? I think yes. I don't know if it's a risky move. I think it was their strategy. Page and Grant's strategy for Led Zeppelin was to do all of that, keep the mystery, keep the thing, not appear too much, leave them wanting more. I think all of those, and I think very much that was a strategy for that Page and Grant, because I think you'd underestimate Jimmy Page's role in this. I think him and Grant were the guys doing it.
There was rumors
in this. Sorry, bro.
No, there was rumors around that time frame after Zeppelin III that they were ready to disband. And the rumors obviously grow. It's not like today where you can jump on the internet and find out what's going on with bands these days, because they were non-accessible. So no one really knew what was happening, and it built up more anticipation. So that worked in their favor.
Yeah, I think risky in the sense, if you look at Derek and the Dominoes, for example, the Layla album, there was nothing associated with Eric there, and from the record, doing well in the charts and the promotion of the band around the same time too, guys. Was pretty interesting. But I think though what saved this album though, Brad and Simon, was Armit and the record company promoting it, knowing that this album was, pretty much, a masterpiece, because that record company pushed it, didn't they?
Well, I'll tell you something that I found here, which is pretty much Jimmy Page's words. So, if you don't mind, I'll just quickly go over it. It says here, the album sleeve had no title. Page said, it got to the point where we thought, right, on the next album, we'll make it untitled with no information whatsoever, virtually saying, if you don't like it, you don't have to buy it. For managers at Atlantic Records, it was professional suicide. However, the band members insisted on this approach and stood their ground, and they solely wanted to rely on the music. So that was from Jimmy Page.
Yeah,
that's right.
And I think, obviously when it was released, it got to number one in the UK. So straight away, Simon standing in line with the rest of his mates made sure that album went to number one in the UK as soon as it dropped. So interesting that. Do you guys have an opinion? Do you want to talk about the magic runes? Is that something that you've dug up, Brad, in your research that you want to elaborate here for us?
There's a few sort of all over the place ones that I've found, and I it's one person says one thing, one person says the next. I mean the runes, the magic runes. You've got one here, like for example. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to find it. I've got mountains of stuff here, guys. So plus I've got my
sorry, I'm putting you on the spot.
On the album cover itself, the runes were at the top. So there's actually 5 runes in there because Sandy Denny, there's one of her as well. Yeah. So there's 5, but they called it 4 symbols because of the band symbols. So the John Bonham one, which is the round circles, the 3 round circles, the third from the left. Yep. So that one there, sorry, it's the symbols denote. Sorry, I've lost it.
That's right. The 3 interlocking borromine rings.
Trilogy, man, woman, and child. But it goes through. It says it follows on trilogy: man, woman, child, from the Christian's holy trinity of Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. But basically, to put some humor on it, it was the symbol of his favorite beer, Ballantine beer.
Correct. Valentine's. That's correct
as well.
So that puts a little bit of a humorous spin on that one.
Yeah, and that's one of the great things about this band is because it's got that English humor buried in it. It's nothing esoteric. I don't think it's just English humor.
John Paul Jones one. I'm just having a look. So, if you guys know this,
his is a little bit more complex, isn't it?
His is a little bit more complex.
John Paul Jones is what he chose from Rudolph Koch's Book of Signs, a single circle intersected by 3 vesica pieces, Pisces, which is this one here, that one there. So he chose that out of a book. Robert Plant designed his. This is his is that one. That's Robert Plant's one with the feathers, and Jimmy Page's is the. He designed his own symbol. Has never publicly disclosed any reasoning behind it.
There's lots of theories behind. There's lots of theories behind the Zosso, but the plant one was drawn. He picked it out of some sacred symbols of an ancient book, like 15,000 years ago, and I'm just trying to find the section that I thought was important because it's so much text here. I didn't actually take this out. But,
that's okay. That's fine.
Where is it? The bird's feather. The feather is contained within the circle, signifying the cycle of life and rebirth. That's what his symbol symbolizes. And Jimmy Page's one, well, it's complex as hell, and we maybe should just not, try and make something of it because I've got about 4 explanations for it here.
Okay, that's fine.
Some of them are referred to his star sign being a Capricorn, and it symbolizes something to do with Saturn and Capricorns. And then there's there's reference to 666.
Crowley. Yep.
And then there's reference to I've lost the other one. But Jimmy Page has never actually come out and I think that probably is part of the mystique part of Zeppelin. They never really like to say much.
Yeah. And it could just be something that he's just designed and liked graphically, but probably probably not with him, because we know that he was very much involved in Crowley. You know, bought his property.
He was interested in the occult and the Crowley. He was interested in all that stuff. So, you know, that was part of it.
Because that was part of it. But in 1972, it wasn't a big part of Led Zeppelin. It wasn't, you know, that it was sort of in the background. But I don't think it wasn't like major pub. I think it's got a life of its own, that, you know, when he bought Aleister Crowley's house and you know, and that came out kind of later, the sort of, but I don't, in 72 it wasn't really a big thing. It was just because I think, as Andrew said earlier, you know, the big book around then for teenagers was Lord of the Rings and things. So there's quite a lot of, you know, quite a lot into that kind of mystic, you know, stuff going on, and it's the early, you know, it's only 71, so we're still not very far away from, you know, the kind of esoteric religion. Well, you know, the stuff we've been talking about with George Harrison and things, you know, I think fits in here. You know, people were investigating things, and, you know, so I think it bubbles away in the background, but wasn't, I know, for the sort of, you know, the ordinary fans like me, ordinary people who just bought the record, we weren't thinking, you know, I mean, there's tremendous stuff like, you know, playing records backwards and say, you know, join Satan kind of things. Like, I don't know how you managed to do that, but, you know, it's quite difficult to play a record backwards if you've only got a little record player, you know. I don't think it was a big deal then. I think it's become a bigger deal over the years as people have played in that stuff into the, you know, the lore of Led Zeppelin. But I don't think it was then. I think it was, you know, lots of other bands were writing kind of mystical. If you look at Yes, you know, they were writing quite mystical lyrics about, you know, on not dissimilar things. And, you know, Lord of the Rings was big in, you know, other groups took that stuff as well. So I think you've got there's a bit of a context in which you have to take these things. I think, you know.
Sure.
I think that
I'm just going to interject, Simon. I'm going to make an executive decision. We're going to make this into. We're going to make this into 2 shows, because we haven't even finished the intro, and I'm looking at the time here. So I think for us to do it justice, we should do 2 shows, guys. Is that okay?
Yep.
Fine.
Yeah.
Well, because
I'm fine with that.
So let's relax and make sure, because there's a lot of stuff here that I want to get from my co-hosts, because they're experts on it. We'll come back later to the symbols, but also what's really, really critical about the success of this album, I think, too, guys, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about it, was the different recording locations. You know, 1 minute they're just hold on, you know, 1 minute they're at
Headley Grange, Basin Street Studios.
Yeah. You know, so Simon, how do you think the revolving, and also, jeepers, don't forget Jimmy Page, didn't he had 8 tracks put in at home too, so he was recording at home too, wasn't he, guys? So how important do you think that was, Brad and Simon?
Well, the recording process, if you don't mind, I'll go through a couple of these things, guys. So, like, Jimmy Page obviously immersed himself into like creative work. He installed like an 8-track studio in his home. He was working on a number of songs. He was working, including the sequenced, like, arpeggiated chords for what became Stairway. Page and Plant then went back to Wales, to Bron-Yr-Aur. The Cottage, they spent time previously with Led Zeppelin III. They wrote and applied finishing touches to some assorted songs there. Then they followed more decisive stages, including Island Studios. Then they went to Headley Grange, Sunset Studios, and then they went back to Island Studios as well. So basically, I mean, they were, and I can go through the recording process with you now if you want, like basically what they did, like how they actually went about it, if you want me to.
I don't have a problem with that. So, Simon, that's part of the introduction.
So
rock us out, bro.
Well, the recording, obviously the opening song was written by all the 4 members at Headley Grange. Headley Grange was a former poorhouse. Some of these songs ended up on Led Zeppelin. This is in May 1970, I'm saying. And the remainder was set aside and reworked for Led Zeppelin IV. The end of 1970, Page and Plant retreated back to their Bronnier cottage, where Led Zeppelin had seen a lot of day. Then the four musicians got together at Island Studios in London in November, December to record backing tracks for a number of songs, including Black Dog. And the initial rough sketch of Stairway was worked on there with the help of Andy Johns, who worked on previous albums with them. The sessions didn't go as well as they planned because they weren't really happy with the atmosphere and that they needed a change. And they put it down to Pagey wanting to just go back to go back to Headley Grange. So what happened? It didn't go as well as they planned. After Christmas vacations that they had with their families, the four of them regrouped. Andy John suggested they go to Stargroves, Mick Jagger's manor house in Hampshire, which would let them have the access to Rolling Stones' mobile recording studio, and they could record at their leisure, so they didn't have to worry about the time clicking over in a studio and studio restraints. Mick wanted £1,000 a week. Page said, quoted, "I'm not giving Mick Jagger £1,000 a week for his place," so they returned to Headley Grange. So
that's hilarious, isn't it? That's brilliant. It's like really £1,000 a week. Well done, Mick.
In January 1971, they returned to Headley Grange, where they would utilise the 10 or more rooms that were inside the place. And the woman that owned the premises couldn't believe her luck when they returned there and rented the house, because it was a crumbling old ruin, apparently. It was rumoured Jimmy Page enjoyed the place because the fact that it was haunted. He set himself up a room upstairs on the third floor of the house. And but the majority of the reason Andy Johns has alluded to as well was the acoustics in Headley Grange were another factor, and Page loved that. It enabled them to, and Andy Johns and the band, to experiment with sonics and obtain different effects and colours that they'd never been able to get. The best example of that is When the Levee Breaks, which was recorded in the entrance hall of the house, and it was just with a pair of Bayer Dynamic M160 mics, if anyone's interested. So they're just two mics. That's all they recorded that fantastic drum sound with. And it's iconic. That's
Echo Rec.
Sorry?
And a Binson Echo Rec.
Was it?
Yeah. See, the other bit, the reason it's got that is because they used an effect. They used something called a Binson Echo Rec, which is a tape delay.
Okay.
So when they were recording, it's the other bit of that. It's not just the sound. Yeah, I know, but a lot of people think it's just the sound of that room, and it's not just the sound of that hallway. They put it through a bit because you get that slight slap back bit on it, which gives it even more huge space. But yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Look, they obviously in the place they continue. Sorry, Simon. Sorry.
No, I was just going to interject with a useless fact. As I'm the rock professor. When they were recording at Basing Street Studios, who else was recording there at the same time? We've done it. We've done the album. Jethro Tull were recording Aqualung there at the same time as Led Zeppelin in the other studio. Yeah.
Well, look at the Headley Grange provided them the ability to move mics around, move amps around, create new recording spaces, and it took them to previous recording techniques that they'd never sort of gone to. So it took them to the next level. The four members composed, wrote lyrics there, rehearsed, recorded, and worked on the recording from Island Studios as a band as well. So after a week of being at Headley Grange rehearsing and sort of getting the songs together, the Rolling Stones studio arrived with Ian Stewart at the helm. He was like the sixth member of the Rolling Stones, as we know, the piano player. Various songs were ready to go. They started recording immediately. They got down most of the tracks, the backing tracks, what I call backing tracks for each one. And there was enough songs for them to make a double album by the end of the session. But Robert noted that he didn't feel like they were ready to take that step as a band yet and make a double album. So that's why it just became not a double album, just a single album, which I think was a good move on their part, because the tracks that were left off are still great, but the album's perfect the way it is. I don't think you could change it. So from there, they returned back to Island Studios to work on overdubs for the songs with Andy Johns. Obviously Headley provided amazing sounds for the songs and the instruments, especially, Bonham's iconic drum sounds. It wasn't so great for guitars though, so they needed more control sound, and Page re-recorded a lot of the guitars that were beds that he recorded with the band, except with the exception of when the levee breaks, they left that guitar. So majority of the guitars you hear on the recording weren't what he recorded at Headley Grange. They mixed at Sunset Sound at Andy's request. And part of the reason why that, a bit of humour in this one, that he'd mixed there previously, but he was having a fling with a young woman in LA at the time. So he obviously didn't go there. But the trouble was, because of the fling, somehow he'd lost 2 freshly recorded tapes of the group, one including 4 sticks. And the other reason, since Andy was there last time, Sunset had completely refurbished the studio, so he really had no way to get around the studio. So he had to get his head around the new configuration. After 10 days of mixing at the record, Andy and Jimmy flew back to London to play the fresh mixes to all the 4 members, and they were bitterly disappointed with the mixes. The playback through the monitors at Olympic Studios were light years away from what they expected. It was dull and it lacked frequencies. Jimmy and Andy sat on the floor with their heads in their hands saying, what the hell have we done? What is this? They put it down to the monitors at Sunset being very bright, and Jimmy said it made them feel like the monitors were lying. What they were hearing back, it wasn't quite what was there. Plant was irate. He said Andy Johns was the worst, was worse than useless, and they immediately needed to remix that. But before they did, the group had to go on a UK tour, which pushed the album release back, the album release date back a bit. The mixes were then sent to Trident Studios for mastering after they were remixed, and they would never work with Andy Johns again. And I dare say that would have been a band decision, probably Robert Plant. The album took 56 months. The album took 5 to 6 months to record. The studio time was relatively short, though. There was the quality of the songs that recorded was fantastic. So they spent less than a week at Island Studios in November, 6 days with the Rolling Stones mobile recording studio at Headley Grange. That's not including the time they were rehearsing. 5 days at Island Studios and 10 days at Sunset, and then back to Island to remix in April 71. So a relatively short amount of time really in the studio. Was over a 5 or 6 month period. So that's pretty much all the information I got on all the recordings, guys. And obviously I'm into instruments and all sorts of things here now. So
I think you're right though about the panning system, the switches on each of the channels at their mixing desk to enable to get that specific sound. At Sunset wasn't wasn't good enough for them. And something about too also, guys, that Andy Johns used a universal audio compressor as well to get the guitar sound. So I've got some pics here that Brad's kindly throwing in, and we can talk about that. But Brad, your elaboration for the gear. I'm going to get the rock professor to give his analysis of some of the gear, because I know he's got something there too. So if you want to share what you've got there with us, Simon, this will be a great time if you've got your notes handy, please. Brad, fantastic, brother.
Thank you.
And the thing that occurred to me listening to Brad was that clearly the recording in a house seems to have become something of a thing. And I was just thinking to myself that three of the greatest records. Exile on Main Street was done in the same way. Machine Head, Deep Love was done in the same way, using the Rolling Stones mobile. This, Led Zeppelin IV seems to be quite a thing with groups where you set yourself up in, not necessarily in a conventional recording studio, but in houses, and to give you a different kind of creative vibe that you could maybe settle into things a bit. Go on, Andrew.
I'm glad you said that, because I'm going to read one of my notes here, and I'm glad you mentioned that. it's very much an English thing now. No disrespect to any of our American guys and girls in the chat, but certainly during this period of time, Simon, Brad, I think the English guys in particular, yes, they were getting some harmonics and some natural reverb. They loved that because they were great musicians. But I think Brad specifically too, I think they liked the fact that it gave them more of a relaxed attitude as opposed to being Simon in this big square somewhere. You know, if you wanted to go and have a cigarette or have a beer or something like that, it gave them, I think, the mental comfort of being in a familiar environment that reverberated through these albums. Am I in the right park, or tell me to piss off?
No, that's
no, absolutely.
Jimmy Page has even been noted as saying the reason he liked Headley Grange is because he could just, when things were not working or whatever, he needed a break, he could just duck off and make a cup of tea and disappear into the garden, go for a walk, and then come back.
Yep.
You know, so there was a little bit more of a earthy sort of environment, less interruptions, no time restraints when it came to studio times. Because back in those days, I mean, it hasn't really changed, but studios cost a lot of money per hour. So, you know, it's to run a mobile studio, it's the cost of the studio, and that's it. So,
no apple scruffs hanging around the studio too.
So there would be less less interruptions, less distractions, and there would be more focus on getting the quality done. And you know, as we get into the songs and that, like, I'll elaborate about little things that they did while they were at Headley Grange that have created brilliance, which they wouldn't have done in a studio atmosphere. So
yeah, and you know, thank you, Simon, for bringing that point up, because I don't think we can underestimate that point. And we've done those albums, haven't we? The three of us, we've gone through those albums. Yeah. So if you guys haven't already seen those shows, go back and have a look here. And yeah, good point, Simon. I did you want to add some more on that, because Brad and I kind of interrupted.
No, it's fine. That's what it's all about. No, I was just going to say, you know, Led Zeppelin 3, Sticky Fingers, Led Zeppelin 4, Who's Next, Machine Head, Exile on Main Street, Houses of the Holy, Penguin by Fleetwood Mac, Who Do We Think We Are, Deep Purple, Physical Graffiti, Bob Marley and the Wailers live at, you know, going up to Alchemy, Dire Straits live, and Iron Maiden, No Pray for the Dying. You know, I mean, you are right. I think the atmosphere created. You could hire a decent place, or and you could set up. I think interestingly that it only had 16 tracks as well. So I think there's a certain amount of that the constraints. But Led Zeppelin they always recorded the basic tracks live in the studio. They set up 4 of them or 3 of them, and and go through the basic tracks, and then Page would have a vision of how the tracks would be. And I think it's that these the more you get into Led Zeppelin, the more you see that the songs are structured, the parts are structured and written and clearly thought about. It's not just I mean, even something like Stairway, where he went in and improvised 3 solos. He knew where he wanted to start and he knew where he wanted to end. He didn't have the bit in the middle written down, but he already had the structure in which he was going to play and where he had to be at the end of it to when it went back into the next section. So I think it's really important that Page, the producer, is really good at that stuff. He doesn't just go in and he's got them planned out. He's got he has parts, he has all sorts of things that that fit the make vision.
How important was the 8-track studio that he had at home? Because we all know that he was a genius leading up to recording Led Zeppelin 1. We've done that album too, guys, if you haven't already seen that show. So go back somewhere. I should do one of those things, when you edit the video, it should pull and it should be over there. It should take you to that. But we'll get there. We'll get there one day. But anyway, so most of the people watching us will know that Led Zeppelin 1 was funded, recorded, engineered, and mastered by Jimmy Page. So he had all that, didn't he, as a session musician, Brad, all that experience contained in his little head, and he could take that out and bring it through, obviously, this 8-track recording. But how important do you think that was for him? Not necessarily the band, but for him and where he was going to take the band with this album. Am I reading too much into that, Brad?
With the 8-track at his house, that was an integral part of this album. Integral. I mean, Stairway, he was arranging Stairway, he was coming up with the chord structures and the arpeggiated bits, working out arrangements. He had a vision in his head, and he wanted to start working on it pre going into a studio. And I think, there were, in a sense, where home recording studios have sort of taken over in this day and age. You can almost prepare, if you're going into record, you can almost take your session that you're working on at home in with you. Obviously, he didn't do that, but that was an integral part of him getting these songs arranged and written and arranged, getting them sorted. Yeah, 100%.
Oh, I absolutely think that, it enables you to work out parts and work out, I've got this bit here and it's going to be so what else am I going to do that fits those things? And it's exactly the same with Pete Townsend, isn't it? Pete Townsend would do the demos for Barbara O'Reilly or whatever, and then take them into the studio for the Who and say, right, I've done all these parts, here's the, he did bass and drums and everything. I don't know whether Jimmy Page did it or not, but I think that chance to work on a track without the financial pressures of and work out, get the structure together, work out the parts you're going to play. So when you go in the studio, you work really quickly, don't you? They didn't mess about, as you've said, Brad. Even now, they're not going in for months on end and jamming stuff out. They're going in, recording, overdubs here, whatever. It's which is the way that they always did it. Now the first Led Zeppelin album cost £1,782, which is the equivalent today about 30,000, about 30 grand today. So they, but so clearly, I think they did that from before, and I think clearly that they, that was a big influence. Not, as I say, not only on Page. I think any of those guys had home studios and things, and that ability to. Morning, Texas. That ability to record things at home and figure stuff out. I mean, I'm sure that I think that Page was very much able to buy into that because that's what he did. What parts am I going to play on this track? And
I think you guys are right, and this is one of the great things that I love about what we do here on this show is that we try to draw these little strings and these little things together. And give a foundation for another listen to this album, because I know that once we finish these two shows, when I go and listen to this album again, I'm going to hear it differently. So, but what I particularly think's really important too was, they were in Island Studios recording, and they were familiar with that place, from Led Zeppelin III, and then they, but it had that studio environment. Then they would go home, and then obviously record at home, which gave them the space and the time and that compression that you need for this band. Because Brad and Simon, they were putting a lot of pressure on themselves as a band, weren't they? They were a band that I know for a fact enjoyed it, but they weren't casual. They were confident of doing the fourth album, because everyone talks about the 3 albums, the third album being a critical album, but I probably think the fourth album is probably the most important. If you go back and look at all the bands that we talk about, it's probably the fourth album, which is the one that certainly sets the mold. But do you guys have an opinion on that? On the environment? We've discussed it a little bit, but is there anything else that you want to add to that?
The only thing I can think of is, like, Jimmy Page was one of these creative geniuses that never really switched off. So the other boys would go off and have family time, and he'd go home and work on songs.
Bonzo would go home and have a beer.
Yeah, so he you know, he was a family man. He'd go spend time with his wife and kid and things like that, and kids, and so would John Paul Jones. But Jimmy Page was never really stopping. So he, you know, in the sense of back in the 70s, a recording device like that he had was part of what he did. He'd go home and start recording and coming up with ideas. He was always coming up with ideas, always coming up with little things. He had Stairway in his head, like what he wanted to plan, and it would have been a 15-minute song if it had a plan worked out the way he wanted it to.
Well, I know that we're going to rank this song, but you know, let's just talk about that, Simon and Brad, before we have a look at some of the photos that Brad's shot through to us. So, Stairway to Heaven, as it is, couldn't be what it is for us today on this record if Brad, as he said, he hadn't have had that opportunity to work this song at home. I don't think this song could have been crafted to the level that it is solely in the studio. I just something I believe when I hear the song, when I heard the song 4 times in preparation for it, this song is a song that's been baked and hatched and nurtured. Simon, have you got an opinion on that?
No, I think that's true. I think he, for a long, I remember part of my things too, that he wanted to have a long song. He wanted to do something, you know, for quite a long time before, and kind of, you know, it's a case of working it up and working it out. But I know he wanted to have it for quite a long time before that, and you know, then it was a case of working something up, and you can clearly see it's got 3 separate parts, you know, and each part does a different thing, you know, continuation thing. But you know, clearly having thought up those 3 separate parts, you know, and then fitting them together, yeah, that takes some time. That takes some gestation period, I think, you know, and clearly they didn't just jam it out in the, you know, in the studio. We know he came with the, you know, with the idea, and he came with the things, and then knowing that the other guys would, you know, people like John Paul Jones, you know, could fit it in, you know, would fit instruments in, you know, so the recorders, for instance, you know, well, you just go, you know, there's that classic saying, isn't it? You know, if we wanted something on a film, we just got Jonesy, because Jonesy could play everything, you know, mandolins, keyboards, recorders, you name it. If they wanted it, Jonesy could play
their electric piano. You know,
yeah,
exactly. You know,
later
the
on,
Moog
synths as well. Yeah, the Moog. Yes, all of that stuff. Yeah, completely. You know, it's
for anyone who's interested, that guitar there is what Stairway to Heaven's guitar solo is played on.
Yeah. So Brad, you know this
through a Supro Congo.
Yeah, we've discussed this before, and it blew me away. It blew me away when I found that out, because you know you always think of Jimmy Page and you know the Les Paul, you know, but when I found that out, I was like, really? We'll go through those pics, bro, and you can talk about them.
That's the guitar from the Yardbirds.
That's the guitar that Jeff Beck gave him. Yeah. Yeah, and he hand painted the dragon on it himself. He went through 3 stages or 3 incarnations of being redone. But that is the particular guitar that's on the solo to Stairway to Heaven, and the outro parts, the lead guitar parts at the end of Stairway to Heaven is on that guitar through a Supro combo cranked. So that's the actual guitar.
So I'm going to fiddle through and go through these and magnify them, and if there's anything in particular that you guys want to highlight on the pics, please let me know.
The wonderful thing that Page was able to do with, whether he was playing a Telecaster, a Stratocaster, a Les Paul, like whatever he was playing, he always sounded like he was playing a thick sounding instrument like a Les Paul. He always had that ability to manage to pull that tone. So, you know, the first record's a good example of that. Obviously, once he went to the Les Paul, it became his number one guitar. But yeah, so that's the actual guitar. That's everyone has different opinions of what type of guitar it is, but that is fact. That's the guitar that's on the solo of Stairway to Heaven. 100%.
And you know where Jimmy Page got the bow from, Brad?
I'm sorry, what was that, Simon?
Do you know where he got the idea to the bow on the guitar from?
Tell us.
Well, it was a group called The Creation in '66, and their most famous song is Painter Man by, I don't know if you've got Boney M, the Boney M song, Painter Man.
Painter
Man, they did it originally. Painter Man, who want to be a painter man? Well, they did it originally.
Painter Man.
There you are. Well, they did it originally, but one of their best-known songs is called Making Time, which they recorded in '66, and it has a guitar. The guitarist played the guitar with a bow, and that's where Jimmy Page got it from.
Okay.
To get the idea from. A. Phillips, he's called. There you are.
So that acoustic there is that's a Harmony Sevron H1260. That's what he plays on the start of Stairway to Heaven. I thought that would be important to note that that's the actual guitar that all the acoustic stuff that you're hearing on Stairway to Heaven is that guitar.
With the
and it's
it looks really weird.
not a
the
top of the
lead
range
going
guitar.
into the not a top of the range guitar.
No. Not a Gibson, not a Martin. That in fact, Simon, that's probably just a middle range guitar. Wouldn't it have been a middle of the road average guitar?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
sure.
yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. Harmony.
He did use Gibson acoustics and stuff, especially on the third record and that. But that's 100% the guitar he's playing on Stairway. 100%.
Yeah. Can you look at the lead for the pickup? It just goes into the sound hole somewhere.
I love this one. Look at this.
That's a great picture.
Yeah.
So
that's
what
they used to do. That's what they used to do. When I saw them at Earl's Court in '75, just drop that in. When I saw them at Earl's Court in '75, I got a bigger bombshell than that. That's what they did. They came and sat on stools out the front, and and just played like that. Chairs.
We already know the bombshell. We know the bombshell.
What's the bombshell?
We know someone giving you guitar lessons. So, all right.
Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it. He died in the end. No.
Shut up. Orange amps too, bro. Orange amps. Notice that?
Yep.
Who else was using orange amps? Fleetwood Mac, Peter Green, Black Sabbath, Free.
Yep. And when we get to the songs, I'm going to mention a Peter Green reference.
I know the one too.
Letting the cat out of the bag.
I didn't say what song or anything yet. I'm just throwing a bit of dangling the carrot.
Early on. It's
good night, Texas. Thanks for joining, mate. Take care. Yes. Boom. Look, there's going to be a lot of bombshells, but don't let them out yet.
We're not going to let them all out too soon. We're not going to let them all out. That would be an electric version of, say, that would have been John Paul Jones. Probably, I'm not sure what song. That might have actually been a live performance of. I'm just trying to remember where I saw that one.
When is that?
Oh, we just lost Simon. He was just about to tell us.
So that's a mandolin.
It's an electric mandolin. No, I don't think it's an acoustic
electric mandolin. Tuned in G, but he's got it capoed at the second fret. So the song that they're singing is in the key of A.
Yeah. So I was thinking it would have been, no doubt would have. Oh, well, you're back, Simon. We thought we lost you.
Yeah. Just chuck me out. Boom, like that. Axed. I don't know. Are they playing Going to California or something? I don't know how.
Battle of Evermore, maybe. I don't know. Who knows?
No. I don't think they did Battle of Evermore live. Certainly Going to California, and they did a kind of whole acoustic bit in the middle kind of thing. Yeah, where they all 3 or 4 songs, and they went and sat out and did the acoustic set. Yeah, it's lovely, really good. Yeah, where they played, John Bonham would play the, the Irish drum, boron, whatever it's called, bodra, it's not called a bodrum, it's called and they would sit out the 4, and he would just maybe play a bass drum or something, and yeah, really cool. I can't remember.
Another interesting little thing there, and we've discussed this before on a couple of other shows, but a lot of these guys, we've got to call it, we've got to say what it is. We're wearing, women's clothes for their stage get up. The Stones were doing it. David Bowie, remember guys, we did a David Bowie show and he did it, and so obviously here's another good example of Plant looking super cool, because I couldn't pull that off, guys. Brad could.
Just so you know,
he already
that was taken during a performance of the Battle of Evermore, that photo.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I can see it down here. It's on the bottom. There it is there, from the performance of Battle of Evermore. So,
yeah, definitely is.
So, for us nerds, then, what key is the Battle of Evermore in? Because we've just said that the mandolin is tuned. If it's standard, if it's in G, where the capo is, it's in A. So, is the Battle of Evermore in the key of A?
I believe it is.
Oh, boy, we're good. Gosh, we're good.
I actually did have a note here. Sorry, guys. This is what happens when Andrew throws a spanner at me, and I've got 2 billion notes written about one particular album.
Yeah. And I haven't made a note about what key Battle of Evermore is in.
It says here, C. F. Martin, A mandolin. So A style. So the mandolin that he recorded on was in A. So that being an electric mandolin, maybe it's in G, and they've capoed it up to A. That could be right, Andrew. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that would make sense.
So that good little detective work that we like doing. Now, Brad,
A minor, if you want to be picky.
please tell us about this interesting.
So that there is a similar one to what Page recorded Stairway to Heaven with. His version of it was a sunburst guitar, but this is the only picture that I could find that was reference to it. So basically dismisses any idea of people thinking that he used the ES1275 SG on the song in the recording, because he didn't. He actually used a Fender 12 string, which was like that, but a sunburst.
Correct.
So
it was definitely not the SG. Definitely not.
The SG was a later thing for live performances. So yeah, but that's exactly the same guitar, except his was a sunburst. And I couldn't find a real picture of that, like an actual photo. So
what's really interesting about this guitar is a lot of these cats were using this guitar around the same time. The Beatles, the Rolling Stones were using it also. Peter Green, Fleetwood Mac, they had a couple of songs. So, this interesting guitar was a pretty hot thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Never played one in my life. Never seen one in real life, guys.
No, I haven't seen one in real life either.
No.
I don't like that head. I'm sorry, guys. That I just
hockey stick.
Yeah.
I think it's it is a recording device for Page at the time. That was what he was using it for. And I'm trying to find there was a Vox 12 string he was using as well. And that's on the later part of Stairway to Heaven, which comes in after the solo. There's 2 12 strings going, plus a Les Paul. So there's John Paul Jones. That's his his Fender jazz bass. I think it was a 62 jazz bass from memory. I'm just having a look here. So it's a 62 jazz bass, and basically all John Paul Jones used on the record was that Fender jazz bass, the mandolin that Pagey recorded. What's it called? He recorded Battle of Evermore with, and the Hohner electric piano, and he played a Moog synth for 4 sticks as well.
A Moog Simon, a Moog 111P, is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So that's a really cool. I think John Paul Jones is one of the coolest dudes ever. He looks so cool on stage, Just a cool bass player, really cool. So that guitar there is the live, what Page used to play Stairway to Heaven live in concert. That was never on the recording at all. But that guitar, they'd stopped manufacturing that guitar, Gibson did, so they had to custom build him one because he requested it. So that's the guitar that you see in Song Remains the Same, him playing live Stairway to Heaven with. And, obviously, made it simple.
When we finish off doing the photos, I'll show you guys our back screen. One of the iconic photos for me, Brad, is him playing this.
Yeah, it's almost become a bit of a trademark for Jimmy Page, and people always that are not deep diving into the record assume that that's the guitar that's actually played on the record, but it's not. That was after the record was done. Yeah,
that's called How Do I Play This Live? Ah, right. Yep. Perhaps I need to go and get it. Yeah.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
But beautiful, isn't that guitar? Just
yeah, stunning guitar, really. And I mean, every other guitarist now since then that's ever picked up one of those always gets mocked as trying to be Jimmy Page. So that's the signature thing for Jimmy Page was he played one of those. Everyone from Eddie Van Halen, Jeff Martin from the Tea Party. The minute they pick up one, Slash has got a black one. Every time he plays that, everyone would yell out Jimmy Page. It was like. So there's a really cool photo of them. That's a really cool photo. Obviously, Bonzo with his beard.
I love that. I love this photo.
Yeah,
I love
and you can see Robert Plant's like posing, doing something like pouting his lips like a typical poser that he was, Golden God. And then you can see Jimmy Page is honing the Zoso sweater that was knitted for him. So that's he's drinking his beer.
Simon? What's that beer, Simon? Do you know? Are you familiar with that label? Something like ale.
Not like a. Is it Ballantine? It's not Ballantine light ale, is it?
So something light ale.
I can't work out what it is.
Guys, what do you think about the jumper? Come on, be honest. Come on, is that's a 70s thing, isn't it, Brad? That's 70s, brother.
Are you sure? Are you sure that's not something he had when he was 7 and still fitting into it, but not really very well? The Zosso secret is out. It's a jumper he had when he was 7, and somebody knitted it for him with kind of just a pattern on the front. It's like, never mind your mystic nonsense. That's the truth of it.
And he's got his beard going on there. Really cool. And here we go. Look at Jonesy.
He's just having just blowing a bit of smoke off the cigarette he's holding in his hand.
Well, let's have a look. Is it it's a ciggy. Yeah, that's a ciggy.
Yeah.
Oh, Brad. Look at that.
God,
a beer
ciggies.
for Bonham.
Yeah.
Pint.
Very cool picture.
Look at that coat that he's got on. That's what he was wearing on Led Zeppelin 1. No, Led Zeppelin 2.
I don't know if you remember, you go to a pub, right? And they would say, do you want a mug or a sleever? And that's a mug. And a sleever is a tall straight glass without a handle. It reminds me. I haven't seen those glasses for a while in pubs.
I'm sorry, guys, if I haven't been highlighting any comments in the chat, but we'll come back after we finish flicking through the photos. I'm glad my co-hosts and I decided to do this show over 2 shows because look, it's we haven't even finished the intro.
Yeah, I've got more info. I've got more info to go through too. So definitely need to show.
Before in '75, the acoustic was going to California. That's the way, and Bronny or Stomp. as the three, they sat out the front and bookended it with Tangerine and Trampled Underfoot, with a bit of gallows pole thrown in the middle of it. But, yeah.
So Brad made
I was there.
reference to this in the intro, so I'm just going to read this out because he's included this in the photo. So the Rolling Stones mobile studio remained the property of the Stones until the death of Ian Stewart in 85. Then Bill Wyman, the group's bassist, bought it. Wyman used it until 93 for his AIMS project, whose purpose was to foster young musicians. The last artist to use it for commercial recording was Mick's brother Chris, for Chris Jagger Atcha 94. It now belongs to the National Museum Centre in Calgary. If you guys haven't checked out some YouTube videos of them doing that up, it's on YouTube. Check it out. It's brilliant. It's amazing. Just a little side tangent here. I'm going to ask my co-host, what did you think of the AIMS project? Do you want to give us a brief synopsis on your thoughts, Brad, and then Simon?
Simon, you go first.
I don't know anything about it.
Well, is that the concert that Page was at and Clapton? Is that the one I'm thinking of, Andrew?
Well, I think. Well, I'm making that mental connection because that's the one where he was a little bit smashed off his face, wasn't he?
He was definitely not in a good place. He was definitely not in a good place. And I don't think Page had seen the public or anything since Bonzo passed away. And I think that was the first little outing. And, it wasn't so good. I mean, look, passionate. He's passionate. He's on the rails, ready to come off at any second. But he's clearly not in a good way. He's very skinny. He's very off his face. You can see the look in his eyes. You can see the look, his skin even just doesn't look very good to me. There's a bit of a bad moment for Jimmy Page at that time. I think he just was not coping with the whole John Bonham death thing very well.
Glad he got back together. Yes. Yeah. Anyway, perhaps we should have just stuck with the photos. Sorry,
that's all right.
I get a bit excited now and again. So, have I got this around the right way? I don't know. I
think it's sideways, but that's all right. That just shows a bit of a mixing desk.
I don't think it was stuck to the wall, do you? The mixing desk stuck to the wall.
That's part of the Rolling Stones mobile recording studio. I
think there's another photo. Oh, there it is. There it is. Yeah. So, Brad, you want to read that out? Oh, no, it's the same.
I'll read it from a book because I can't read it off the screen. All right. The Rolling Stones mobile studio remained. Oh, no. So that's
I've just read it.
Yep.
Sorry.
The AIMS thing was a project, Bill Wyman's project, to give up and coming bands a chance to record and perform along with some of the hottest recording artists of the time. To select the most deserving bands, Bill Wyman held a Europe-wide Battle of the Bands series, the finalists from which were invited to play at the world-renowned Royal Albert Hall and the AIMS Gala.
Oh, so we're getting that mixed up with the thing that Clapton and Thing did for... Yeah, they're two different gigs then. Sorry. Yeah.
That must have been the Rainbow something.
Because Clapton didn't play it. It was Bill Wyman, clearly. Elvis Costello, Chris Rea, Eddie Grant,
Rewind. Rewind. I'm sorry for sticking that in. That's putting us off completely off tangent. So I'll edit that question out. Sorry.
That's all right. It's fine.
That there is Hedwig Grange. That's the premises where they recorded a lot of the beds for the actual album were recorded in that, and that the entranceway there, obviously the hallway, the stairwell is where they recorded levee breaks, drums.
So the drums were set up specifically, weren't they, for echo?
Yep.
Yeah.
And there was a story I read on that somewhere that I couldn't find which I might find because now we're coming back next week about it. I might try and find it somewhere. But there was a story I read somewhere where Ludwig dropped out a drum kit for Bonzo to try, and he was in the hallway they set it up in the hallway, and he started playing it, and instantly he's like, my God, this is the best drum sound I've ever had in this hallway. And Paige heard it, and it was like, we're recording that drum sound for because they tried endlessly to get the right drum sound for levy breaks. Was that the song?
You're correct.
Yeah.
You're correct.
In
fact, there's a video of them discussing that somewhere.
Yeah.
So
It's actually in that movie that Paige did with the White Stripes guy and U2 guy.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It might get loud.
It might get loud. That's the one. So yeah, that was the story that I'm sticking to it. There's Andy Johns.
God bless him. God bless him.
Yep, Andy Johns. So yep, just a photo that's in the book so that you can sort of get to see what he looked like. Obviously, I don't know what he's standing in front of his amps for. He must have been endorsing it or something. But that's Andy Johns there. He was the guy at the helm.
Yeah. As ericclapton points out, what you were thinking about, I think, Andrew, was the Arms concert. Roll Arms concert.
That's it. Sorry. Yeah.
That's right. Which does include the mighty Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, and co. Yeah. So thank you, Derek.
Guys.
Not spotted.
Yeah. We're lucky we've got some very informative,
knowledgeable people getting us out of a hole.
Yeah, well, they'll put us out of a job soon, I tell you. So yeah, there's a photo of the band with Peter Grant, their manager. So you can see far left there, it's Peter Grant, the quite large fellow. And his background, he was into managing wrestlers and all sorts of things. No one really wanted to mess with Peter Grant. He was a powerful man, like in the sense of he had quite a reputation. So you can see John Paul Jones. Oh, that's Robert Plant there with his golden locks, and Bonzo, John Bonham, God bless him. So yes, passed away.
Is that a cine camera?
1980 today.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's Jimmy Page at his home with the recording device. Yeah. He's got a really nice sweater vest on there.
Didn't he? He wears a sweater like that at the Royal Albert Hall kicking.
Yeah, it's probably the same one,
DVD, isn't it? Yeah. yeah.
Brad. It's an English thing because Simon wears them, but he doesn't wear them on the show. Trust me.
I wear them to play golf.
You need to wear one, mate. You need to wear it on the show. You will feel like we're touching, a part of that essence of
essence of Englishness.
Yeah.
What's the 2-track tape recorders?
So you can see his listening material there. Just a pretty classic photo. I thought that was really good to highlight that one.
This is a
gold record.
Yep. Zeppelin 1.
Like just go back to the gold record, Andrew. Just go back to the gold record. Go to. Just come down a bit. No, down a bit. The clock. What we're after is the clock. That's such a classic kind of classic British, thing you'd have on your mantelpiece. And it's like cheap clock to tell the time. Find that in every home in the UK in the 60s. Yes. Lovely piece of domestica.
Oh, I love this shot too. Look at this. Oh,
yeah, that's a great shot.
So we're gonna scan this. Look at that.
We're gonna scour it.
Look at that pedal board.
Yeah.
Nice cry baby.
Tape onto the floor.
Yeah, just so they don't kick them.
That'll be the channel selector.
Yep, and something to do with just switching. But you can see like Bonzo's drum kit isn't honing the 4 cymbals yet, which obviously came after this record. But this is
do you mean 4 cymbals or do you mean 4 cymbals?
No, I mean sorry, the circles. He hasn't. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But
So yeah,
what's brilliant? What's brilliant? Just Andrew, can you just pull out of it? What's brilliant about that photograph? Let's come out. Is look, they're all standing within about 3 feet of one another. They're like really
Correct.
tight as a band, really tight together. You know, but John Paul Jones is looking at John Bonham. You know, but they're not. You know, however big the stage is, they're like in the middle of it, close together.
wow.
You know, and
Look
I
at
think
the
that epitomises how Led Zeppelin worked as a live act. You know, they paid attention to each other. You know, the three absolutely, and played off each other. You know, and you can only do that if you're close to each other. You know, if you're like miles apart, it doesn't work the same way.
have a look at John Paul Jones's. Is that an acoustic bass rig there? It's almost like a PA system.
Could be. I don't know that stuff. That could be monitors, of course, Brad.
No, I think there is
Doesn't
bass
seem to have
rig.
any monitors at the front.
No, I'm pretty sure he used
be,
acoustic. Yeah. They were called Acoustic, the brand.
Yeah.
So yeah, plus that looks like his keyboard there, so it might have something to do with his bass and his keyboard at the bottom end. So yeah, but yeah, it's a good photo. That's a classic photo of that era for me. It's a good one. Yeah, so that now you can see on Bonzo's drum kit, he's got the 3 circles now on there. So that would have been just after. That's a great photo.
Yeah,
it's a great photo. So that photo is playing Wembley, November 20, 1971, the day after the UK release of their 4th album. And that's just little facts about the album there. So when it was released, number 1, United Kingdom, Australia, and Canada. Number 2, United States, France, Japan, and Italy. Obviously now it's probably one of the biggest selling albums. So yeah, there's another shot of the actual guitar that was played on Stairway to Heaven solo. That's the actual guitar.
37 million copies worldwide.
Wow.
Quite a few.
Quite a few, right?
Here's 2 of them.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew, there's probably a ton more photos I could have shared with you, but they were the best ones I thought to share, just to highlight a couple of things. You know,
yeah.
But instrument-wise, I can quickly go through the instruments if you like, what the whole band used. If you want me
hold
to
on, I'll just grab my notes up on
yeah.
that too, if that's okay. Give me a second, brother. Is that working? I updated my iPad to ISO 15, so.
Okay.
Oh,
I don't even know. Don't even know the difference between the operating systems anymore. For me, look, I'll start anyway. So for the instruments, we'll start with Jimmy Page. Obviously, on this particular record, he expanded his guitar palette. His 59 Les Paul, his number 1 guitar, is the main. It's the main guitar used on this record. The solo on Stairway to Heaven is that 59 Dragon Telly with a Supro combo amplifier he used, as on Led Zeppelin 1. He also used a Vox Phantom 12 string, which he played on the 2nd album as well. And he used that Fender 12 string Sunburst guitar that he did have in the Yardbird days, apparently. That famous EDS 1275 was only ever used on stage, which is what we discussed in Stairway, and doesn't appear on the album. The acoustic guitars he used were the Harmony 7 H1260, and on Battle of Evermore, he used John Paul Jones's CF Martin A-style mandolin. John Paul Jones just used a Fender Jazz bass, mandolin, the same mandolin that Page used, a Hohner electric piano, and a Moog synth for 4 sticks. Bonzo just used his Green Sparkle Ludwig, and I've got here Plant used a harmonica in B flat for When the Levee Breaks. That's it.
Yeah, and some controversy, I think, it hasn't been proven yet, but Andy Johns thought that maybe there was a 12-string Rickenbacker used in there, but we can't. What's Simon holding up?
That's the Vox Phantom 12-string.
Yeah.
I'll break photograph it, but yes, go away. Oh my God.
Brian Jones was a fan of the Voxes, so he's using the Vox Teardrop as well as the Phantom too for a couple of songs. So
yeah, and it's you know it's.
Sorry, I can't.
Andy Johns also mentioned that he thinks Jimmy Page used a tone bender as well.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, so I'm not sure whether I know Page used them with his Telecaster on the first record. He used a tone bender.
Yeah.
I'm not sure on this record. Probably is, but maybe not used to the extent that it was on the first record. But yeah, so I mean that's pretty much it. I mean, other than a couple of different guitars, they kept it pretty simple. They kept it pretty simple, guys. And Ian Stewart obviously played piano on Rock and Roll.
You know what, guys? I'm amazed. I'm going to say to you guys, I think we should end the show and come back next week with the Rankin and the Tracks. Yep. If that's okay. We've been going for an hour and a half, so I just think the continuity of the two shows might be better. Is that okay if we do it?
Yeah,
if we do it like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Simon, is there anything that you want to offer to the introduction program? Because now's your time, brother. From your notes, and also Brad too. If there's anything that you want to add, please, for the next 10, 15, 20 minutes. I think
I'll let Simon have a look at his notes. I've got a few things, but they're not too
cool.
The one thing,
if you guys can do that, and I'll just go through and I'll flick some comments up on the chat. Thank you.
Okay, just hold on 1 second.
So you guys are part and privy of how we plan on the air, guys. So you guys are part of the show.
This is how we do it, guys. I knew this for some reason when I was doing my notes here, and I think my song rankings are probably going to take up the same amount of time this has taken. So,
mate, I kind of thought that too. I thought, 2.5 hours. But we did talk about it though in the green room, though. To be fair, we kind of thought, guys, that we may be in the shit here.
Yes, Simon,
no, not at all.
You've got a copy of the album, the LP there.
Uh-huh.
So, if you want to,
how are you?
Touch on a couple of things that Jimmy Page said about the album cover to disperse a little bit of the mess and everything around the images.
Hey, Mark.
So obviously the front cover. So the front cover, for example, if you can just show that, if you have a look, so on the right with the man with the sticks on his back, it says the old man. What is it?
Sorry. Let's get it. There we are.
Yep. So the old man on the where is it? The old man on the cover is carrying wood, is in harmony with nature. Explains Jimmy Page. Basically, what it means is he takes from nature and gives back to the land. It's a natural cycle or circle. Sorry, it's a natural circle. And then it says here, his old cottage gets pulled down, and then they put him in the urban slums. Old slums, terrible places. The old man is also the hermit of the tarot cards. So that's what Jimmy Page has been.
The hermit is this bit. This one.
That one. Right. Sorry, that one. Yes, sorry, I already jumped ahead too far.
Yeah, so this was a picture that I think Robert Plant found in a shop. That they just put together. It's really interesting, isn't it?
Well, my notes here is so who was the name of the guy that you said there, Brad? I'm sorry because I was just flicking up some some comments. So old George Pickengill, 19th century farm worker, was apparently a magician and occultist connected to some occult circles, and was a mentor apparently of Aleister Crowley. So there was some significance, according to the research that I've done.
They said that they thought that's what he was,
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to dismiss that myth by saying it was just a painting that Rob Plant found.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's what I've got here. But could be, I mean, Page could be doing like what Eddie Van Halen does, you know, or
No
did.
doubt. But that's
Yeah.
why we're here, because we like to talk about all these different theories, don't we? Yeah.
19th century rustic oil painting on the front was purchased from an antique shop in Reading by Robert Plant. But if he has some connection to Aleister Crowley, that would be a hidden meaning. I hadn't.
There's a question there from Hoss for you, Brad.
Yeah, we did kind of touch on that at the start, but you're 100% right, Hoss. I'll just have a look at this section again in my notes. But what they did is they went to Sunset Sound and mixed down all the recordings, and then they met back at Olympic Studios with the 4 members, and they were devastated by the mixes that they'd done at Sunset Sound, so they had to remix it.
Yep.
Had to remix it again. So you're right, 100% right, Hoss. Yep. Yeah.
He's on it.
Yep. So Hoss is a producer, so he knows this stuff. He probably knows more about this than we do. So yeah, thanks, Hoss. Yeah, so that in particular was true, 100%. And then they obviously.
So what about the lyrics too? That was the first time, wasn't it, that they had the lyrics on their sleeves?
Yeah. Well, there was there was the first time they've ever highlighted the lyrics, and that font Jimmy Page found. I'm trying to find my notes on that now too. But cool. He found that font, and he got someone to do all the fonts for him, so they could do up the lyrics. That
was always a key to somebody. If you were ever at a party and someone was singing this song and they got the lyrics wrong, you knew that they weren't really a Led Zeppelin fan. They never had this album.
Yeah, that's right.
But I love that font. Can you just put that just a little bit closer? Yeah. See, look at that. That's great. Well, and we'll get some pics of this. I love that font. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
If there's a vessel in your hedgerow, oh my Lord,
we're gonna get banned if you start singing it.
Yeah.
Beautiful. What else you got there, Brad?
He found that font in a really old arts and craft magazine called Studio, which started in the late 1800s. He thought the lettering was interesting, so he got someone to work up a whole alphabet for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm. So wow. That was, and it's no fluke. This is, the album hadn't been released. They didn't know the power of Stairway to Heaven, but they put the lyrics of Stairway to Heaven in there. It was no fluke. They knew it was going to be a success. They knew.
That's a very, very good point, and that was a conversation that I remember having many, many times. So Simon's going to show something. So I know 4 guys that have this tattoo over the last 20, 30 years. I know 4 people that have a version of that tattoo.
Wow.
So certainly, if you can show that a little bit closer, the figure, Simon,
top, yeah,
love it. Here, the image inside the gatefold is of a hermit standing on a mountaintop, holding a lamp, is gazing down at a small village in the valley below. This is the work of a friend of Jimmy Page's, Barrington Colby. It's basically an illustration of a seeker aspiring to light the truth.
Correct. And again, so when you're 15 years old reading Lord of the Rings, watching, getting this record that Simon's holding up, listening to this album, it's just a fantastic journey, isn't it? Ah, there he is. Hold on.
Yes. Fantastic. Look at that.
I'll go backwards there.
Cool.
I love that. Always loved that. Always loved it, bro. Just love it.
I don't wear this T-shirt very often. It's only for special occasions.
Do you know what I'm going to have dinner after the show, and I'm going to go and listen to this bloody album again. I'm so excited. I'm just...
Well, I got some really good, bits of information that maybe a lot of people already know that some people might not know, which I'm looking forward to sharing with everyone.
Do you want to talk about them now, or are they in relation to the songs for the rankings?
Well, I'm talking about every song with the rankings. Mine are pretty long.
Okay. Yeah. No problem. No. We'll keep them for the songs. But look, I think we've pretty well covered everything for the introduction. I think the fact that we've united and linked in the different locations and how that created something certainly to the mystique of this album. The fact that the record companies, from a commercial marketing point of view, and Simon and Brad, we talk about this often, don't we? That these guys are in the business to make music and sell units too. So the fact that they were getting support from Armand, who saw something great in this band, is just one of the great things that he did. It's a shame we don't have guys like that in charge of record companies anymore. But also Peter Grant too, being very, very successful, keeping them back, Brad, keeping them away, just like a just waiting for the dam to burst. You know, knowing this, being able to be in tune, just shows how great the whole Led Zeppelin business was back then. Brad, what do you think?
Oh, 100%. Peter Grant was a key to their success. Their manager, Peter Grant, was a key to their success in the way that, it's, if you read it, I mean, there's a lot of really good books. There's a good book I read a long time ago, Richard Cole, I think it's called Stairway to Heaven. And that's a really good one. It really tells you a lot about, and Richard Cole was their road manager. So his words, he may have made up a few things here and there. From what I believe, he was fairly honest in the book. And, so the information.
It's good.
Yeah, I've got it. I've got it in my storage. But it was an amazing eye-opening thing to see how powerful and how pivotal Peter Grant was to Led Zeppelin, because I never really understood, the importance of a manager until I read that book. And I read it when I was still just getting into playing guitar playing. I was reading that book because I love Jimmy Page, I love Led Zeppelin. So I've read it a couple of times since, just because the more you read it, the more you take in. There's some pretty funny stories, and it's a good book worth reading. So that's a good one. If you love Led Zeppelin, that is. It's worth reading.
Simon.
Yeah. Sorry, just looking for some news, guys. Sorry, something came up, and I don't know whether it's yeah. I think.
Yeah.
Waiting for you to say something, Simon.
No, sorry. Go on, carry on.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
Did I cut you off again, Simon? Sorry, mate.
No, it's fine. Carry on.
Jimmy Page was obviously the band's producer, and he was heavily involved in every project, and he still is to this day the flag bearer of Led Zeppelin, 100%. 100%. But
100%.
Yeah. So Hosford, Page tracked, he mixed the album, produced it, did everything. He was the man flying the flag. He owned it. It was his band. He wasn't going to let anyone else do it. That was it.
Yeah,
that's the interesting part, isn't it? Is he very much,
even though it was his band, it was interesting because I just watched a clip for the new Becoming Led Zeppelin thing where he was talking about how he wanted a band that they were going to be equal from a musician's point of view. Yeah.
Wanted it to be 4 members.
That's correct.
People.
Didn't want to be in a band like he had witnessed when he was a session musician, where it was just around one person or two people, whatever. He just thought it would be better to have a band that was musically at least a partnership. But I can't wait for that film. We were talking about that in the green room, weren't we, guys? Becoming Led Zeppelin, they're dropping snips. Looks like that's going to be an outstanding go-to film when they drop that.
Yeah. There's a lot of information about Led Zeppelin out there. There's some really good books. There's some really good references. But come here and we'll tell you all the important facts. That's all you need to do is come to the British Electric Blues Show, subscribe. If you're watching this back and you're not subscribed, well, damn well press that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up.
We'll certainly give you some passion, because 95% of the albums that we talk about, we do have an immediate connection with, don't we, Simon and Brad? And that's one of the great things about what we do here, and clearly everyone in the chat does too, because the comments have just been flowing. We've got Hoss there, Cool Music Tech, Alan, Hugh, Simon's going to do a roll call soon, Nelson, Keith, Campbell, all you guys are just inspiring, and we just love it. Thank you guys, because we just, as Brad said before, we're just Led Zeppelin nuts talking about a great album. We can't wait to do the rankings with you and do some more deep diving, guys.
Yeah.
Is there anything? Did you find what you wanted, Simon?
Yes, right. Yeah. I was just something flashed up on my screen. Alan Lancaster, the bass player from Status Quo, just died.
Oh.
The original bass player from Status Quo. Anyway, sorry, that's what I was looking for. Which one? Distracted because it flashed up on the screen.
It's pretty sad. The anniversary of John Bonham's passing today as well. So I think we highlighted it at the start, but it's worth mentioning again. Without John Henry Bonham in this band, that it wouldn't have been a band. Basically, let's be honest.
Cool Music Tech says it would be nice if you break down the band's influences, etc. A show all of its own, I think. But
that's a whole show on its own. 100%, though. 100%. Yeah, that's a good idea.
We'll certainly take that on board for a show coming. We certainly do have. We've got the staff to do it justice, haven't we, guys? And everyone else in the chat.
Well, that's maybe something that we can do in that after that movie comes out, Becoming Led Zeppelin or whatever it is. We can
Good point.
Show on that, because that will highlight a lot of that anyway. I'm sure that will, because the influences will be there. They'll be able to go through, and even some of the influences that heavily influenced them as the band went on. There was other artists that were influencing them 100%.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, part of it is Page being a session musician, isn't it? When you're a session musician and stuff, and you started in the 50s, there's all of those influences that are there.
Could be a three-parter. Keith knows the show. He's got us sussed. Keith, you're right. What one thing that we want to do here, the staff and I, one thing.
The Lord of the Manor, Lord Andrew, says.
One thing we like to do here is at least we don't want to do a 5-hour show. It's just not what we do, and we'd rather come back and do something 2.5 hours, and get it right and have a little bit of fun too. Because if it's the rock professor there with his ruler and Brad and I are sitting there going, there's no fun in that.
That's probably a really good question for everyone in the chat, actually. Like, would you prefer to see, I know the answer from people on the panel here, but like 2-hour shows are what I see as being the most palatable. And I think anything past that is better to do 2 shows, because there's no point going for 3.5 hours if the last hour and a half is a little bit tired and drawn out. And I'd rather keep people's interest and have the enthusiasm all the way through. And I think it's just a good time frame to stick to 2 hours. And what do you guys think in the chat? Maybe you can throw in the chat there what you guys think. I think it's a good opportunity to highlight things more without rushing as well. That's always been my objective behind the 2.5 hours.
Yeah, and I'll let you guys into another secret too that's really, really important from our point of view from this side of the screen. And we don't mind sharing this. Having that dynamic from our point of view, the fact that Brad and I and the rock professor know a little bit where each one of us is going to come from helps really, really well. In my mind, I think, Simon's going to cover this, Brad's going to cover that. So we don't have a lot of production meetings on this show. We kind of generally work out, a little bit of where we're coming from, unless it's, like, for example, the Beatles thing that's going to be coming out, where we'll probably want to make sure that that's going to be presented. But, we're cocked up, though, on this one. This should have been a 2-hour show. I mean, a two-show show.
Two-show show.
All right, well, we're going to come back with the rankings, and we're going to have some fairly detailed stuff through the rankings of the tracks, so there'll be deep dives within themselves. Especially from my part, I've got a fair bit of information in relation to the recording of each song and things like that. So I've tried to put that in the record, in my rankings. So I've tried to do it so that it covers off as much as we can do in a 2-hour show. So maybe I think we're dead smack on them. Yeah.
And everybody's saying in the chat that 2 hours is a good length to do. So I think our instinct on that is completely right.
Awesome. All right, Simon, do you want to do us a favour, please? And
we'll do the,
before you do that, though, forgive me for not highlighting your comments when we were going through the photos. We'll grab some more photos too, because I like to do that. I think it just adds a little bit. So we'll fire through a couple of photos, Brad, before we get into the rankings. It's like lighting the candle for the show.
Yeah.
It's lighting the candles, turning the lights down low.
There's one of the 12-string, probably playing. I'd say that'd be Song Remains the Same, but
gotta be.
The song remains the same because of the positioning and the way he's playing. But that's a cool photo, and just because it is the anniversary of Bonham's passing, I'll highlight one photo and then I'm done. So just look at this cheeky smile. Hang on, where is it? Well, it's not a smile, but the passion in that.
What a drummer.
And
we look forward to the 5150 show too, guys. As if you guys weren't aware of it, Brad has organised to have Hoss and his drummer from Fair Warning join us. So to talk about all the details, all the secrets that drummers do. So another first for the channel.
John ZD says 2 hours is perfect for a 1 hour show. Fantastic.
We couldn't agree more.
Before we go, I have a John Bonham story. When they were on tour, when Zeppelin were on tour, the rest of the band would say to Richard Coles, whoever, we don't want to be anywhere near John Bonham. Okay, we don't nowhere near his room. So whenever they booked at the hotels, they would be a long way away from his room because he had a huge stereo. Apparently, he had a stereo with a massive kind of PA thing, right? So they didn't want anywhere near it. So they check into this hotel, and they can hear him. They can hear him, and it's like, I told him we don't want to be anywhere near Bonzo and his enormous stereo. So they go and find him, and they go, we didn't want to be anywhere near Bonzo. He said, you're not. You're 12 floors away.
Okay.
Fantastic. John Henry Bonham. Moby Dick.
Yeah, but that's in 1971, so that would have been time appropriate.
Yeah.
So everyone's agreeing with John, about 2 hours is perfect for a 1 hour show. Yeah. Legend, laugh
brilliant,
out,
John, fantastic.
Alan's still laughing.
I am as well.
Good to see that we can make people laugh at least. Well, John can.
John can make us laugh, yeah. No worries. Fantastic.
Simon, do us a favour.
Right, let's get us out of here. Quick, okay. Thanks to John. Thanks to John, fantastic comment, and Ellen as well, and Keith Campbell, and Teresa, Cool Music Tech, Hugh Corbell, Johnny Heartbreaker, Simon Hosford, the Hoss. Looking forward to seeing you back on, Simon.
Yep.
Simon has just ordered the vinyl copy of Led Zeppelin IV. I'm saying late. What have you been doing, Simon? Blimey. Sonia, thanks so much, Sonia, for your moderating. And Mark Tanner as well. Hi, Mark. Keith Campbell. And Arvin, of course. And Phil S. as well. Let's see. Good crowd tonight. Hugh Caldwell as well. Thanks, Hugh. Always good to see you. Nelson, of course. The mighty Nelson Rodriguez. Take care, man. Have a good week. Johnny Bean jumped in early, didn't he? So thanks, Johnny, for that. Ken Cook as well. Hi, Ken. Thank you so much. Deja Voodoo. Yes. Desperate effort to get everybody. Derek as well. Ericclapton. Fantastic. Hi, Derek. Thanks you. And Warren, of course. Mighty Warren. Glad you're back home, mate. I hope you're feeling better soon. It's fantastic news, that is, for us. Robot Master Switch, Helen Winter. So I needed to go back, Doc. And Texas Jackdaw as well. Thanks, Texas. Keith Campbell. Dropping by. Oh, we've got quite a lot of people today. Excellent. Majestic PB and J Cat. There we are from earlier on. Thanks for dropping by. I think that's probably about everyone.
Will we have a Brad Tick and Tone tip next week?
Jimmy Page tone tip.
Jimmy Page tone tip.
Get a Les Paul. Get a Les Paul.
There's your tone tip.
There it is.
There's your tone tip right there.
There it is. Marshall Les Paul. Or orange and a Les Paul or something.
That guitar in front of that quad box, and either one of those two Marshall heads will do the job.
Yeah.
So
and that big pedal board you have in front of you, unplug that and plug it straight in the amp.
Oh, you guys are awesome. I got to tell you, it's always a pleasure doing the Sunday show. Look forward to coming back with the Rankins, especially. For such a pivotal album. I look forward to it. We've had a bit of fun. Want to do a shout out to the Rev from the 5150 show, of course. He's always a big part of the family. We've got some cool things planned. Brad's cooking some things on that side of the channel. Hats, clap. Put your hands together and give the rock professor a clap because he's been social mediating. He's been. If
I could give you a behind the scenes shot of me arsing about on this guy, it would make you effing and blind. The air is blue with my complete lack of understanding and irritation with the way Instagram works.
So I'm doing this. I'm going through looking at my, and then I see some. Oh, I just about dropped my phone. Oh, it's so. The rock professor.
Yeah, I just about dropped my phone as well. Trying to bloody do it.
Check out our social medias. They're on the bottom there. Easy. You can get Brad at Brad Cook Music. Easy at Brad Cook Music. Simon Williams 33. Help him along. Give him help.
He needs help. Yes, he does.
Yes.
Oh, is that all?
That's it, guys. Let's wrap it up.
Okay.
I think we're right on 2 hours or just over, and I think that's a good launching pad for next episode next Sunday. We'll go straight into the rankings. I think we'll do a little intro, and then we'll get straight into the rankings.
Okay,
Cool.
so
Fantastic.
what I'm going to do before we go, I'm going to show you guys. So this is what we're getting high tech here on the channel, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to drop the hosts out so that you look at that. Look at that.
Jimmy
behind
Page
us.
stuck in a loop.
So you know, we're going to, besides bewildering you guys with what we're saying in future shows, we're going to have like this moving graphic behind making you get seasick.
Oh goodness!
Oh, dear.
All right, let's get out of here.
Thank you, Alvin.
Right, where are we?
Take care, all. Have a lovely week. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next week.
See you next week, guys.
Bye.